I just wanted to, at the, Mr. City Attorney, for the benefit of the students that are here, there was some comments made today about the election that's going on, or the elections that aren't going on, but the the Voters' Rights Act and the things that are going on in the city. Could you give a summary of where we are and why we are in such a long process and what we're looking at for the benefit of the students?
Oh,
That might
absolutely.
not be appropriate during my comments, but because we have such a great audience, I thought it would be an educational moment.
Well, absolutely. Folks may be aware that as there is the Federal Voting Rights Act, California has its own California Voting Rights Act. And what the law requires is all voters have an equal standing or stature in the election process. If a community has, whether by design, which is rare, but just by circumstance, is found to be what the legal term is racially polarized, you have to take corrective action. Now, racially polarized sounds like a bad thing, and it probably is, but it is not a race-driven factor. What you look at is demographically, you take a snapshot of all the voting activity of the various ethnic groups. And then you look to say, is there a group that has been disenfranchised? Pick one. We'll just say, is your Hispanic population not able to elect regularly their preferred candidate? If so, and it could be for any reason, you are racially polarized. So the city was challenged, as several hundred cities in the state have been, and we looked at our demographics, our voting patterns, and it turns out that, like every other city, literally, in the state, we are racially polarized. Again, that's not a calculated design, but under the traditional at-large voting, looking at our demographics in the city, and my numbers will be off, but just for the example, 5% of the population may be Hispanic, 95% not. On a citywide voting basis, that 5% could never, even if they all voted together, could never elect their preferred candidate. That's what polarization is. It's a mathematical equation, not political, not racial, not emotional, not subjective. It's pure math. Whoever's taken a demographics class or a statistics class, that's what we're talking about. So when you are, you have to fix it. Now, state law, as many laws are, is not as clear as one might hope. State law says a city can cure that problem by either going to district voting, where you break the city up into, based on our number of leaders, 5 districts, and within each of those districts, it's a smaller universe. So
How many different maps did we present?
We did 28 maps,
So just so
not
you know,
one.
28 different
We
maps.
did 28 maps. We had very highly ranked statisticians and demographers, like we're talking experts. This wasn't an in-house process. We engaged the best of the best to help us with this. The attorneys on the other side, whose business is going around to cure voting right issues, and us, we looked and we said, we cannot cure the voting imbalance in town with districts. It doesn't work. Even if we created 5 districts, the Hispanic population in any one would be too small. They could never elect their preferred candidate. The spirit of the law is to find a way to do it. We looked at and came to the conclusion of cumulative voting. Now, that's done in most of the other states in the nation, but not in California, except in the corporate setting. Any of you business majors, cumulative voting will be very familiar for a corporation's board of directors. The California Voting Rights Act says you can do districts or any alternative remedy that solves the problem. That's what it says. So we went, both sides, and the Superior Court judge said, yes, cumulative voting is the way to go. That will work for you. Congratulations, we've solved it. Until we told the Secretary of State, who's in charge of voting, who says, we don't want to go through the process of coming up and verifying and certifying cumulative voting for one jurisdiction. We've got big issues to deal with. So we say no. Our response is, but you can't say no. It's not your job to say no. Your job is to help us implement it. Secretary of State, if you don't know, is in charge of all elections in the state. So we look to them saying, step up and help us do what you're supposed to accomplish. They keep telling us, no, we got bigger fish to fry. Well, we may not be the biggest fish, but we are a very competent fish. And we are pushing back on the state saying, no, you need to step up and do your job. We have got the governor's cabinet involved. We've got elected officials at the state level involved. We've got lawyers on both sides involved, all trying to, we'll say, convince the state, the head of elections, to do what they're supposed to do. Now, one of the original arguments was, well, the registrar of voter in Orange County can't accommodate it. Last year, they bought all new machines, computerized, and they can do it. The only impediment we have is the state, Governor Newsom's administration, or one wing of it, saying they don't want to. We are not taking that easily. Our settlement in the matter said we can go to districts or we can go to cumulative. Interestingly, many cities, special districts, counties across the state are watching us. A lot of them want to go to cumulative voting. They didn't want to butt the head with the Secretary of State. Well, we're stubborn enough to be doing that. And everybody is backing us, but it's like the parade. They're all behind us, way behind us. So that is what's going on. So why we haven't said more to the public, why we haven't told you the nuts and bolts of how it works, until we get the Secretary of State to buy in and do it, we don't know. So it's not we're hiding the ball or being cagey or trying to do anything nefarious. We're fighting with our own government to do the right thing, which is very quizzical, but welcome to local politics. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you. So that's what happens when you ask an attorney a question.